The destruction of Planet Vegeta might be the single most important moment in all of Dragon Ball. Without it, Goku never arrives on Earth, he never meets Bulma, and there's little stopping Pilaf from taking over the world. For many years, Frieza had feared the legend of the Super Saiyan, a powerful warrior who could take him down and free the Saiyans. The legend was vague enough to terrify Frieza, and even if they never reached that level, Saiyans were getting stronger and stronger. If they decided to team up against Frieza, they could eventually be a problem. It seems like Frieza just needed an excuse to push the big red button labeled "Kill all Saiyans," and he got just that thanks to Beerus. The god of destruction had a much different relationship to the Saiyans compared to what he has now in Super. His animosity only grew when the king gave Beerus the second best pillow in the universe while keeping the first for himself. Beerus had enough. He suggested to Frieza the idea of destroying the Saiyans while he took a nap. This was the final excuse Frieza needed to execute his plan, putting out a call for all Saiyans to return to Planet Vegeta within the month. But he really didn't do a thorough enough job when wiping out the rest of the Saiyans. It's like Order 66 in Star Wars. Every now and then we find out a new Jedi survived. The answer to how many Saiyan survivors there are has changed over the years. So, without counting the hybrids, just how many Saiyans from the past managed to live through the destruction of Planet Vegeta and beyond? The most obvious example of a Saiyan avoiding death is Goku himself. At just 3 years old and still in the incubator, the boy was set to be sent to a weak planet to take over just like many Saiyan children do. Instead, Bardock, his father, stole a battle pod for him and sent him far away to planet Earth, a world so weak that surely Frieza wouldn't set his sight on it for a long time. Kakarot would of course be found by Grandpa Gohan, a martial artist who raised him on Mount Paozu. Goku was an aggressive little Saiyan kid, but after a fall from a ravine, his demeanor changed completely, and whatever little he knew about the Saiyans was erased. Goku and the audience would eventually find out that he's a Saiyan, once his brother Raditz revealed this to him, along with the concept of the Saiyans in general, in the pages of chapter 197. And thus, we get to Raditz. Him, Nappa, and the Prince of the Saiyans Vegeta were the only full-blooded Saiyan survivors shown to us in the original manga, besides Goku himself. But how did they survive? According to Toriyama, Nappa was an upper-class Saiyan, and although Raditz was born a low-class warrior, and everybody makes fun of him because of that, he was actually very promising, even being called an upper-level warrior, and eventually the prince joined as well. They were on a mission to a reptile planet when their world was destroyed. In Dragon Ball Minus, we see that Vegeta himself chose to ignore the call to return home, implying that it wasn't Frieza's choice to keep him alive. Though during the events on Namek, Dodoria revealed to Vegeta that Frieza chose a time when he knew his crew would be off-world, just in case the prince could prove useful. In the Bardock anime special, you see Dodoria hunting down Saiyans before Frieza destroys Planet Vegeta. Did he just kill Bardock's squad and leave it at that? So Frieza could have killed Nappa, Raditz, and Vegeta if he wanted to. Not that it would really matter either way, because Raditz and Nappa would die in battle against the Z Fighters. Well, I guess Vegeta killed Nappa, but you know. The prince would be spared by Goku and survived to this day, becoming one of his greatest allies. Those were the only 4 Saiyan survivors in the original manga, and by the end of the Saiyan arc, there are only 2 full Saiyans left, Vegeta and Goku. The prince himself says so when he meets Trunks. Oh wait, who are those people in the sky? Even the spin-off manga Dragon Ball SD acknowledges just how many more Saiyans are out there than we thought. So let's talk about those extra ones. In the same scene where Nappa tells the kids that their home world was destroyed, we see 2 brand new Saiyans in the same squad as them.
Our whole world was obliterated! Impossible! That means most of the Saiyan race was completely wiped out!
They go unnamed and are more than likely already dead by the time the original story begins. But they're alive at least sometime after Planet Vegeta's destruction. I wonder what happened to them. They could have simply died while taking over a planet. Or maybe it was Vegeta himself that killed them when they angered him. Perhaps they tried to confront Frieza when they suspected something and died by his hand. Either way, by the time we first meet Nappa and Vegeta, they must be long gone, since Nappa only brings up reviving Raditz and not whoever these 2 are. Introducing 2 new Saiyan survivors so unceremoniously is kinda strange, since it should be a bigger deal than this. Then again, this film was more preoccupied with 2 other Saiyan survivors, Enter Broly and Paragus. 5 years prior to the destruction of Planet Vegeta, King Vegeta became aware of the incredible power held by the child of Paragus, Broly. Afraid of what his power could mean in comparison to his son, King Vegeta decided to send off Broly to Planet Vampa, a deserted world where the kid would surely be abandoned forever under the guise that he was going to conquer it. Paragus became aware of this and stole a ship to go after his son, with the Saiyan engineer Beats accidentally coming along. They land on Vampa and find Broly. Sadly, the ship is destroyed in the process, so they're stuck there. In order to have less mouths to feed, Paragus kills Beats and rates his corpse. Here is a common misconception. A lot of people in the comments tell me that Beats survived the destruction of Planet Vegeta. I understand why people are confused about this, since the movie jumps forward in time after this. But all these scenes with Beats take place 5 years before Planet Vegeta is destroyed. So I mean, yeah, he wasn't there for it, but it was because he was already dead. So Paragus and Broly go on to live on Planet Vampa, where Paragus is forced to use the shock collar to keep Broly from exploding in power, until the present events of Dragon Ball Super Broly, where the Frieza Force finds them and takes them to Earth to fight Goku and Vegeta. There, Frieza kills Paragus to unlock Broly's Super Saiyan, but you know Goku, he's gonna become friends with everyone, so Frieza's plan doesn't work. However, the scene where Vegeta is told about the destruction of his planet mentions one more Saiyan, Tarble. This was Vegeta's younger brother, who was sent away by the king years prior due to him having a low power level, banished as an embarrassment to the royal family. He was first introduced in the 2009 Jump anime special, Yo Son Goku and His Friends Return. He was created by Akira Toriyama himself for this special, where he goes to Earth with his wife, Gure, to get help in defeating Abo and Kado, a pair of Frieza soldiers. He's not mentioned too much. All we really know beyond this point is that he lives in a world far away with his wife. But wait, there's more. Back in 1999, Akira Toriyama created a self-parody manga named Nekomajin. It eventually transitioned into Nekomajin Z, where it becomes a quasi-sequel to the original manga. It focuses on Z, Goku's second student after Oob. I know what you're thinking. Toriyama made this, so is it canon? Well, the word canon is kinda heavy when it comes to the Dragon Ball fandom. It's often used to describe the main works in the series, especially those created with the involvement of Toriyama, although it's rare for us to get actual statements on canonicity from official sources, besides a few things here and there, like Toriyama saying that the Z movies are side stories that take place in a different dimension from his manga, so it's a little hard to navigate. Still, there is certainly what most people consider a prime line of events, usually the original manga into Super. Nekomajin is in a weird spot where, although it was completely created by Toriyama, its canonicity is questioned due to how weird it is. We have things like Frieza having a son and Vegeta still working for him despite taking place after the original manga. But most importantly for this video is the introduction of one new Saiyan. His name is Onio, and he comes to Earth to make it into his vacation planet for himself and his wife. He fights Z when the Nekomajin touches his wife's boobs, but loses pretty badly even as a Super Saiyan. Yeah, this guy has Super Saiyan. He then leaves Earth, but returns to get revenge with the help of Frieza's son, Kuriza, since his wife divorced him after his defeat. The Dragon Ball Wiki says that the Chozenshu 4 databook calls Onio's wife a Saiyan, but I have the book right here and it does not say that. She could be, but there's not an actual indication that she is. Toyotaro actually made a special illustration about these two. On the day Planet Vegeta was destroyed, Onio looks up at the stars, wondering if the explosion he just saw was his home world, while his wife says not to worry, since they're looking for a new vacation home. I personally consider them canon because I love Nekomajin, even if the events of the Nekomajin manga aren't one-to-one. So we started out with just 4 Saiyan survivors and bumped that number up to 10 thanks to everything that's come out since. Well, 11 if you want to stretch it out a bit, and imagine Onio's wife as the only female Saiyan survivor, which, sure, why not? It's a sausage fest as is. Currently, Goku, Vegeta, Tarble, Broly, and Onio are the only pure-blooded Saiyans alive in modern times. Not counting those from Universe 6, of course, because they didn't even have a Planet Vegeta to survive the explosion of anyways. Man, that was a good chunk of Saiyan survivors we never knew about. All things considered, Frieza didn't do a terrible job. He just wasn't thorough enough as he should have been. Did he just send out Dodoria to kill Bardock's squad and stop there? Thankfully, there's no movies or games to complicate things further, right? Enter the non-canon Saiyan survivors, characters who've only appeared in media outside of the main works. The most famous one is probably Turles, the main villain of the 3rd Dragon Ball Z movie. Dragon Ball Z, Super Battle in the World. Or, you know, Tree of Might. He was a low-class Saiyan who looks a lot more like Goku. made specifically to be an evil counterpart to our hero years before Black took that idea. We don't have too much of a backstory on him besides the idea that he was once part of the Saiyan army. The Akira Toriyama The World pamphlet says that Turles survived the destruction of Planet Vegeta by pure luck, becoming a space pirate. Despite being a low-class Saiyan, he was extremely skilled, as shown by his use of the artificial moon. He accidentally found the fruit of the Tree of Might and went on to use it to power himself up, destroying planets and collecting new members for his space pirate squad. They eventually landed on Earth, where they were all defeated by Goku and the Z-Fighters. Fun fact, all of his goons have backstories. Like, this guy here is a prince. Maybe I'll make a video about all those weird backstories from side characters one day. Years later, after the Tree of Might, we would get a new set of Saiyans, in Broly the legendary Super Saiyan. In it, we're introduced to two new characters, the original Z versions of Broly and Paragus. Just like the new version, Broly's incredible power level surprises King Vegeta, who sees him as a threat. Paragus tries to stop King Vegeta, but he gets shot, and Broly stabbed. They're both disposed of when Planet Vegeta is destroyed, but Broly's incredible power makes a shield around himself and Paragus. Broly's power continues to rise, forcing Paragus to constrain him using a calming device. He even gets his eye taken out by his son. They sought revenge on King Vegeta's family, a plan they tried to execute on a remote planet they claimed as the second Planet Vegeta while enslaving its population. Goku's presence there caused Broly to break free from his chains and turn into the legendary Super Saiyan, killing his own father. But he was ultimately defeated by Goku. Years later, he would be found frozen on Earth, where he would attack until he was killed by a Kamehameha from Goku, Gohan, and Goten. He also gets cloned into a goop monster, but we don't really talk about that. He even came back in Dragon Ball Super for a special 4D attraction, with his very own legendary God transformation. I have a video all about the weirdest Dragon Ball specials if you want to find out more. Those three movie Saiyans are all fine and well, but there is even more. And here's where things get a little weirder. Bardock, the father of Goku, died when he confronted Frieza in the original special and the new Super continuity. But in 2011, we got a 3-chapter manga called Episode of Bardock. This was later adapted into the OVA most people know about. In this story, the Death Ball didn't actually kill Bardock, but instead sent him back in time to an ancient version of Planet Vegeta. There, Bardock goes on to become the first Super Saiyan of legend, defending the inhabitants of Planet Plant from Lord Chilled, an ancestor of Frieza, all of which were designed by Toriyama. So according to this special, this is how the Super Saiyan legend began. So in essence, this version of Bardock survives by going back in time. But that's not the only Bardock that survived. In Dragon Ball Heroes, Xenoverse, and Online, Bardock is saved from the destruction of Planet Vegeta by Mira and Towa, the Time Breakers, and brainwashed to fight the Time Patrol in the future. Something similar also happens to King Vegeta, as he becomes the right-hand man of Mekikabura in Dragon Ball Heroes, mind control through his mask and with a very edgy design. He may be extremely edgy, but there is something I really like about this King Vegeta. He's also insane. He wants to get revenge on Frieza for what he did to the Saiyans, which makes sense. But he's also sure that he can take down Beerus? I mean, best of luck? He is so powerful that it takes Super Saiyan 3 Bardock to take him on, though in the end he's killed while fighting Xeno Bardock and Paragus. Oh yeah, Z, Paragus, and Broly are also kept alive in the hero's timeline and work for the demons. There are also some weirder cases of full-blooded Saiyans living past the destruction of Planet Vegeta. Yeah, I know, as if King Vegeta getting saved by demons wasn't weird enough. The ones I'll mention now are what I like to call time-displaced full-blooded Saiyans. Characters who lived way in the past of Planet Vegeta or even in the future. So they weren't even around for the destruction of Planet Vegeta, but I just know someone's gonna comment them if I don't mention them. There's Cumber, an evil Berserk Saiyan who was brought into the present by Fu in Dragon Ball Heroes, and becomes a recurring antagonist. Then there's Shallot and Giblet from Dragon Ball Legends, twin brothers and direct descendants of the original Super Saiyan God, who are sent into the present after the Super Anime in order to participate in the Tournament of Time. So if we're looking at the Saiyan survivors, we're working with 5 canon living Saiyans, 5 canon dead Saiyans, 1 canon but may not be a Saiyan, bringing the total up to 10 or 11 with Onio's wife. Then there's 5 non-canon Saiyan survivors. Well, 3 if we don't count the Z versions of Paragus and Broly. And then there's 3 time-displaced Saiyans. But there's other offshoots of games that complicate things a little bit more. There's the ultimate Tenkaichi hero, a guy so powerful that he took down Omega Shenron with just a Super Saiyan. He even jumped Shenron himself. He's from an alternate reality where everything is just worse. I kinda wanna make a video on him because his story is just crazy. There's also the Xenoverse avatars. After all, they were just a wish from Trunks. If you decided to make a full-blooded Saiyan, then he could have just been plucked from Planet Vegeta's destruction and brought into the Time Nest. What about Tekka, the Dragon Ball Fusion's main character? You can make him into a Saiyan, a Shinjin, Nekomajin, although the canon version to his story is actually a human. But that brings me into Pinich, the rival character from Dragon Ball Fusions. He's definitely a Saiyan, he has a tail and everything, but he's from way into the future. The fact that he has silver eyes instead of just having regular black eyes like any other Saiyan points to him being a hybrid instead. But speaking of Dragon Ball Fusions, this game takes place on age 2016, way after the original series. But thanks to a wish from the main characters in the game, the greatest martial arts tournament in history is held, smashing time and space together. This means a lot of characters get time displaced, including a bunch of NPC Saiyans. I'm not gonna go into detail with them since they're just really random NPCs, only there for you to fight and fuse with. But a lot of these are implied to be full-blooded Saiyans. No Man would actually take them into account, but it's a lot funnier if we do. But who's actually gonna count those? There are actually a few more Saiyans, but I left them out since they're said to be a mix rather than pure-blooded. What's funny is that Frieza missing just a few really snowballed into a whole bunch of Saiyans being around. I could keep going on and on into the hybrid Saiyans, Gohan, Goten, Trunks, Bra, and Pan. But then there's the non-canon ones, like Beat, Note, Goku Jr., etc. And what about the Saiyan bioclones, like Bio Broly or even Cell? But maybe all of that is a video for another time. In all seriousness, it's impressive that Dragon Ball has managed to keep their Saiyan survivors as low as it has. It would be a pretty easy and cheap way to get some hype going. With Dragon Ball Super and Daima introducing new lore frequently, I'm sure we'll see a new Saiyan soon enough. Like, are you telling me no Saiyan ever got arrested by the Galactic Patrol and has been spending life behind bars? Or more people like Turles who just deserted because they didn't want to live under Frieza's rule? Or simple situations like the Vegeta one, who just flat out ignored the call to return home. It's really only a matter of time before we meet a brand new Saiyan. So tell me down below what kind of Saiyan survivor you would make, and be sure to subscribe.